how excited I am. First, I'm hearing somebody say, Dr. Garcia. Okay, I have to get that up. Okay, but what I wanted to do with you today is just sort of, I want it to be sort of like a fireside chat, because I'm not going to do heavy research. What I want to do is share my experiences. I have the advantage, I consider it to be sort of an advantage and an honor to be able to understand the research and bring what I've learned here at the university into my classroom. And so I think that that's cool. I'm not going to speak researchy. I am going to show you a couple of things that have influenced my stance in the classroom. My primary goal here is to sort of give you a taste of the things that I think, or that I have found to work with my students. I'm currently teaching 9th grade honors, 9th grade accelerated learning, what they call it, and I said, oh, accelerated learning, they're smart kids. But accelerated learning means that you need acceleration. So I think it's kind of a misnomer. It's like, oh my God. So I teach 2 classes of them that have classes of 39 students. I also teach, which is new for me, journalism and newspaper, and they're upperclassmen. And it's very interesting because they want to know who's going to be the editor-in-chief. Because they have, you know, they still don't know how to write objectively, and there's some things going on with that. And like Stephanie says, I've taught for 18 years all around. My husband is military, who was, well, he has retired. I made it sound like he's deceased, but he's retired. He was military. I have taught in Northern Virginia, in North Carolina, around the Fort Bragg area, in Texas, and in Germany. And all these school systems, they're different, but they still have some very similar challenges. And Jennifer and I were talking about the word urban. And so I can still say that right now I'm teaching in an urban school, except it's located in suburbia. And it is located smack dab in the middle of, you know, 500 to $1 million homes. And the children still bring some challenges that, you know, in the research it would be sort of considered urban. So my objective to do, you know, in my little chat with you, is to share first a metaphor that I have for thinking about my positionality as an urban English teacher, to share how my stance as an English teacher who's been influenced by the research, and just I'm just going to talk about just 2 things in particular, and to share some of the strategies that have been successful in my secondary English class. And I feel like, because I've been a doc student, I have to sort of qualify my talk with you, because I'm only speaking about me, and I'm only speaking about my students, and maybe some of the stuff that I hear, you know, in the hallway. But for the most part, it's me. Okay, so this is the metaphor. That bridge is the Verrazano Bridge. Anybody from New York? Yay! Okay, that bridge is the Verrazano Bridge. It's very meaningful to me in particular, but the bridge represents the connection between students' home literacies and then the prescribed curriculum. So you know, and the educators that are in the room, you know we are working with prescribed curriculums. And so, so the bridge represents this connection. Sometimes, and this is what I tell myself, sometimes the teacher stands on the bridge. And so I like this metaphor because sometimes the teacher's job is to stand on the bridge and you look towards your student and then you bring your student over to this other land of academic stuff. But sometimes the teacher is the bridge. And to me, that's where we need a little more research, because if the teacher is going to have to be the bridge, then there's implications for teacher preparation and professional development, because everybody who's claiming to be a teacher is not willing to be the bridge. Amen. I know, let me pass the plate now. Okay, so So, okay, so here's the only researchy stuff that you're gonna see, the next two slides. Well, I shouldn't say that, but the only real research stuff is that the tenet of culturally responsive teaching. One tenet that I kind of like is that, you know, all these people are saying sort of similar things, that teaching, culturally relevant teaching, is supposed to be the thing that makes things meaningful for students. These are the techniques and your approaches to the instruction, and it makes this academic mumbo jumbo that you're trying to get these children to embrace, it makes it relate to what their reality is, and that's your job, is to kind of do that. And so that influences, and it's been in the last 4 years, see, it's influenced me all along, but I just never knew what it was. And so in the last 4 years, I realized, through my experience here, that it is a culturally responsive stance. The other thing that I'm so intrigued by, and it's not new research by any means, but the multiple intelligences, because traditional, and still, no matter what anybody tells you, traditional academic and traditional approaches do not service all the children. They don't reach them, and they don't really, nobody even cares, because it's really become, you know, drill, kill, test, whatever. It's really about that. But I believe that you can still take your curriculum that has been given to you and prescribed to you, and assess and present and do things so that everybody has a chance to show that they're smart, and everybody can show you something. So that influences a lot of stuff that I do. Okay, so I think that's all that. Oh no, and there's one more thing that I'm going to show you. Okay, so then, in a lot of the new literacy research, and I'll talk about Alberman and, of course, just because I said that I'm not thinking of anybody, but they've expanded the definition of literacy in schools. But schools still value and expect proficient reading of text, of written text, even though we are accepting, and a lot of my research talks about it, we're accepting the fact that, you know, you have to be literate, looking at visual literacy and all these other forms of literacy, but the honest truth is you've got to be able to understand traditional print text. And so then, anyway, this is another thing that I like. Strategic reading. In our school, well, in our county, one of the focuses is to be able to teach children how to read strategically and critically. And so that's just the framework for strategic reading. And so some of the activities that I'm going to show you kind of fit into that framework. Does everybody know this? Yes.
Is that for nonfiction?
That's for,
as well as fiction?
Actually, it's for everything.
Because I mean, if you're reading a social studies textbook, it's sort of hard to predict what's going to happen in the next century.
Well, except that they don't mean prediction in that way. Oh. They will mean like, okay, go through and look at the headings, go through and look at whatever pictures are in your textbook, go through and look at, I don't know, you might read a couple of paragraphs or whatever the captions are from the pictures, but you're making predictions about, you're trying to begin to activate the prior knowledge, if there is prior knowledge.
And where does that actually reading through the text come in? At which stage?
In the beginning? Okay, I'm not sure. I don't understand your question.
Well, you just told me that.
Well, ask me again. Go ahead.
Because you said that, you just said what predicting is, which did not include actually reading through the text, but just browsing and skimming.
Right.
So at what point do they actually read through the text?
Oh, okay. So I would say you would begin after prediction. Right. And all those things after prediction are are you reading. You're questioning, right? You're making connections while you're reading, you're visualizing. These are things that you have to teach students how to do. You question, you clarify, and then you evaluate once you've read. You go back and you can evaluate decisions and things, choices that people made. But that's all trying to teach people how to construct meaning and be able to engage in the text. And there's a lot of research on strategic reading. I don't know who came up with this originally. It's in our textbook that we use in Prince George's County, but I know that there's a lot of research on it.
Isn't it also true that prediction could happen throughout the experience of reading? It
Right.
doesn't just have to be in the beginning. As you look at, as you're in an expository piece of literature, you're going to look at the headings throughout and make those predictions to construct your meaning.
Right, and I was just thinking of when we teach, we chunk the reading for students to try to scaffold the reading experience. And so you might read the first, a couple of pages, and you stop and you say to the kids, well, what's going to happen next? So that would be, you're right, that would be a way to do it while you're reading. And